Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love you in Canada. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 20th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I was thinking about my plane flight the other day out of McCarran Airport out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Getting on there with the fried chicken. and I came home, and I had this feeling, this desire today.
Yeah.
And I walked in the kitchen, and I saw this fire sitting on the counter.
Yes.
So I had to plug it in. And, once that oil got to a certain temperature,
yeah,
I had to drop some product in there.
Uh-oh.
I took care of my fried food fix once again today.
Yeah, I tell you, I guess that airline is still trying to get that grease off of the back of those seats. You know what it's like when somebody comes to your house and they bring that greasy bag of something. You don't know what's inside, but you know it's dripping the grease, Big C. Is that what you did to the airlines? You're kind of giving people who fly first class a bad name, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I think if I have to sit up and listen to some whining kid behind me,
yeah,
I might as well have at least a full belly. You see what they serve on the planes nowadays? I mean, it's like you're trying to feed a 2-year-old.
Yep.
And I got a leg that weighs 200 pounds, so that little bag of peanuts and pretzels not going to work anymore.
Yeah, they got
so I got myself a family pack of chicken and got on the plane.
That's funny. Well, next time, take those wipes. There's a lot of mothers that go to the sports games all over the country. They always have that wipe in their hand, so when their kids get something greasy, they can get it off of the things that they touch. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, so much going on in the world of the sports universe. I just love that this is a beautiful, happy Friday for everybody around the sports world. We have golf going on across the seas. A lot of people getting ready for some college football and NFL football kicking off. There's still a lot of people trading and deciding where they're going to end up for NBA basketball. But I do want to say, in homage to some of the fish, the fish that you good old boys like to eat down south, we want to thank them for their service and for their commitment to feeding our bellies, Big C. But sometimes you can leave a bad example. We were talking about how you good old boys down south like to deep dive for catfish. Now, I thought you meant with a net. Some good old boys use their hand. They go down in the water to get the catfish. Well, Gradikowski, he's not a southern boy. Maybe he didn't read the whole story. He's trying to deep dive for sharks in the ocean. Can you tell me why he should not do that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's certain sharks you can go after. I mean, he's not going after those hungry predators.
Okay.
You can go after the stone crab sharks and, the nurse sharks like that, Charlton.
Yes.
They're not very aggressive. You can find those in the shallow.
Okay.
He's not going out there at a hammerhead or at a...
The great white.
A great white or, any of those aggressive sharks.
Yeah.
He's not bothering with those sharks. But, everybody's looking for adventure now in life. I mean, you think about playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
It is an adventurous sport every week. No two games are ever the same. The format changes every week, Charlton. Your performance changes every week.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for a challenge to keep you up. And, since they're doing all this drug testing now in sports, you can't get up that way any longer. So you got to go out and find adrenaline elsewhere.
A legal way to do it. That is so interesting. I do remember that movie that made me stay out of the ocean. In fact, I even didn't want to take a bath after I saw Jaws back in the 70s, I think it came out. And that was a movie that, when you heard that, dun dun, dun 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 dun, you knew that somebody's about to get eaten, Big C. So I don't know if it's just me, did that affect? Well, obviously it did not affect you because you learned the name of all the sharks. I was wondering, how do you know the name of all these sharks, Big C? Is that from personal experience or just Googling, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's too big to bite the hook, so we have other apparatus that will get him ashore. And when you think about that movie, Jaws, Charlton, with the great actors that was in there, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Charlton.
Yeah.
These were iconic actors of the era, and with what they did in that movie was brought life to something that no one could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And they put fear in the ocean. I mean, unfortunately, we've had a lot of shark attacks for real,
exactly.
The past couple of decades, Charlton. But that movie, made people think twice about going into the ocean. Parents no longer let their kids just meander off into the water.
For good cause.
There were little strings tied to them. One like they were walking a puppy in the water,
Yep. Well, I want to add to the stereotype of being afraid. I remember out here in the Bay Area, you can always go to the ocean, especially if you've ever gone on a cruise under the Golden Gate Bridge. What a beautiful scene going into Marin County from the San Francisco Bay. You can look back and see the backdrop of the San Francisco city skyline. But they always tell you that sharks like to roam under the Golden Gate Bridge. So on my cruise that I took under the Golden Gate Bridge, on this big ship, I had a life jacket on, Big C. And now people are like, why you wearing a life jacket? It's 70 degrees outside. But I wanted to make sure that on that ship, because I still think about the movie Jaws, it still affects me to this day, Big C. I don't want to make everybody feel bad about guys who are afraid of water, but that still weighs in my mind. I wonder if it ever affected you the same, Big C.
Well, Charlton, it affected so many Americans. Me, if I'm not on a pontoon, I'm not getting out on the water.
Yep.
I don't even want to hang my feet over the side.
Yeah.
I can put them in the ice chest if it gets too hot.
Yeah.
Cool my whole body down. But the only thing I want to drop in the water is a hook.
Yep.
And pull something out when I'm in the ocean.
So did Belichick have any words? Do you think he's going to have any words to say to Gronkowski? He was injured a couple of times last year. Now he's jumping in water. I don't know if Bill has that water phobia. I know over the East Coast, a lot of people go out to Cape Cod and they get the crab. The crabs are a little bit smaller than the sharks, so hopefully he'll get along with his coach when he gets back in town. But I do want to bring up just something before we get going. We talked yesterday about the gentleman down with the Arizona Cardinals and the DUI, which is not a laughing matter. We hope that no one will drink and drive. I don't know how many more times we have to get that message out there. We just got to find a way to stop doing that. I think that the general manager, Steve is his first name, Steve Kimes, I think is his name, the GM for the Arizona Cardinals. And we know what Bud Wells came out and said about the players not having any type of social consciousness, okay? Well, today, I guess the NFL decided that they're going to put it on pause, trying to punish players if they take a knee. And I still think they still have not gotten it right. Big C, if you do something wrong, you're supposed to apologize for people. The NFL bought that media slant that this is anti-military. It never was. So give me your thoughts on why they've taken a pause, and I have a few things I want to bring up, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, there was a couple of reasons why they took the pause. They took a step back and they looked and saw that this was a racial divide in a league that was led by minorities.
Yeah.
That this was a racist move by ownership and management in the NFL, that you targeted one sector of the players in the league. That's what this was basically for, is that, civil rights violations, many other lawsuits, Charlton, would come about against the league and they would lose because you're targeting. They say that you can't target as a player, another player, but the league was targeting a certain sector of players.
Yeah.
Not only that, to double down on it, Charlton, the White House came out today, your buddy Trump, saying that the players should be suspended 4 games for the first offense, the entire season without pay for the second offense. So, this became political.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what the NFL was trying to avoid, with the politicization of this situation.
Yeah.
And now that the White House has stepped in twice, is that the NFL had no choice but to back down from this policy, Charlton, because anyone looking at it, lawyers were lining up waiting on the actions of the NFL against the minority players.
Yeah.
there were going to be so many class action lawsuits, Charlton, it would have been ridiculous. And we know what type of money that the NFL makes. They would have to disclose their books, Charlton.
Yep.
That's something they did not want to do.
Yeah.
And so owners, when you're speaking behind closed doors in owner meetings and you're having a good old boy conversation that you always have, you can say things. But when you come out in public, Charlton, and there's knowledgeable people out there that are more knowledgeable than you, they may not have your money, but they're called lawyers.
Yeah.
And they know what the law is, Charlton, about the right to work, the right to freedom of speech, the right to protest. And even though this is not a protest, this is a stance that they're taking.
Yeah.
And so I wish they would eliminate the word protest. The media, all of the sports broadcasts and national news outlets, stop saying protest, saying the players are taking a social stance.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. When you misname something, Charlton, that's what people tend to believe.
Yep.
Because you've misnamed it, you've lied about what they're doing. Just like we see in politics all the time, the lies are what people are listening to.
That's very true.
Tell the truth about what these players stand for, why they're doing it.
Yeah.
I think, the American public deserves that the media be honest with them. This is one of those things when we talk about fake news.
Yep.
Everybody who reports on this reports falsely about it, Charles.
Yeah.
And so this term, when I was growing up, my mother would say it all the time. A lie will travel 100 miles before the truth ever gets started.
That's true.
That's what this is being, Charlton, about this national anthem debate.
Well, I tell you, that's very well said, Big C. And so sometimes you just got to listen to Big C Sports if you want to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. So there's a great actor by the name, he goes by Jack. Just one, all he needs is one name, like Jack, Denzel. Those guys, they don't need to have that both, The Rock. You have, Sam Jackson. I mean, Sam Jackson is too, but Sam, they all know who it is, Big C. When I look at Bobby Scott, Democrat from Virginia, he introduced H.R. 4261. Google it. It's about crime prevention and cutting down on the prison population, which the United States of America massively incarcerates more people than any country in the world. The majority of the targeted people for the criminal justice complex are African Americans. Why is it anathema for African Americans to say we want to bring attention to this? Now, Bobby Scott, he's a Caucasian man. He's a Democrat from Virginia. But I think people need to also know the reason they made this about the military is because a lot of dumb people don't read. But you got to understand this. We all love the military. My father served in the military in the Air Force. But would you believe, for all those people who want to say fire those SOBs, that the majority of the military's hardware is made in prisons, private prisons? You got to know that. When Trump was elected president, private prison stock went up 100% with Trump's win. The same guy that says fire those SOBs, because there's a lot of people backing POTUS. We just want you to Google it. It's not about a political side. But because I am a black male and I meet the profile of who they are incarcerated over the years since the Emancipation Proclamation.
Charlton, let me inject something on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Trump is always, and the administration is always talking about the job rate in America, how unemployment is down, is at an all-time low for African Americans going to work. So why is he and his cabinet calling to fire African Americans? You think about this. He's not calling for any other culture in America to lose their jobs.
Google it.
But here it is. You have an administration that's very animate about making certain sector of people in America unemployed.
Yep.
He's saying, I want to see black millionaires unemployed, is what he's saying. I mean, you don't have to put a spin on it. It's exactly what he says in his tweet today. He says suspend them for the entire season without pay. So that means I want them unemployed. Now, I wonder this one thing, Charlton.
Yeah.
If they're unemployed, are they allowed to go in and get on the unemployment line, Charlton, and get that same percentage of income just like any other American would get?
That's a very good point, Big C. That's a very good point. And what people need to know, and this is for everybody, whether it's mainstream or not, if you look at what happens in prison, They make between 90 cents and $4 a day. That's every day. They don't get sick pay. They're not part of a union. There's no retirement benefits. There's no nothing. So when you look at the profile,
you mean they don't get vacation pay?
They don't get vacation pay, Big C.
Oh,
but
okay.
they don't get none of that. So when you look at the people that take a protest, they don't only play football.
But they do give them a 401k, don't they?
No, they give them nothing, Big C. They give them nothing at all. They give them nothing at all. So when you say don't take a knee as anti-military, it's not. They're making equipment for military. That's why I just hope they would make this right. And I wish that the NFL would have gotten it right the first time and stood on the right side of their players, because the players, they need the support of their employer. That's what.
Let me ask you a question on that, Chuck.
Yeah.
You're saying that all this military hardware is produced in the prison.
98% of it, Google it.
And we see that in America, what is it, 68, 70% of the prison population are African Americans?
African American, yeah.
So don't they contribute more to the industrial military complex than the average citizen?
For 90 cents a day to $4 a day, yes.
Minority men in America contribute more to the industrial military complex than anybody else in America. And yet the White House wants to say that they're un-American?
That's what they've been saying. And you know what? Amazing. Sometimes when you read, it's uncomfortable because we so brainwashed into just following sports. But we got to understand where we are. And I think I do want to appreciate everyone in Congress that's looking to do criminal justice reform, which means not incarcerating people over things that oftentimes mainstream will just get counseling for. And people know that's true. But also what we got to know that's true is it's important to know who's actually backing this. There are about 6 major banks in the United States that invest in private prisons. And without those banks investing in private prisons, it would be very hard for them to get their credit lines. And I just want to bring it up because I want people to Google this and stop being upset at an athlete, whether they stand for the national anthem or not. I know we just want to know the score. I know we're all wanting to see who won the game and who's going to get drafted where. That's all important. But I want everyone to Google this. There are 6 U.S. banks that are keeping private prisons in business. Without these institutions, they're called GEO Group and Core Civic. They would be in trouble without getting money. You want to know what some of those banks are? You can Google them. Wells Fargo, there's Chase, there's Suncorp, there's several other major banks that are part of that. That's important because a lot of times when you go into those stadiums, they're owned and financed by these banks that invest in private prisons that incarcerate black men on a massive level. So the black guys who know this, they're taking a need to call attention to it. And Congress and state senators are starting to listen. But Trump knows that a lot of these private prisons, they got wealthy when he got elected. So he's speaking when he says, fire those SOBs. You got to realize their stock went up about 100%. And you got to know that. Big C, that makes sense. That has nothing to do with the military. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, well, it's always been a facade from the media and the press saying that, it was anti-military. And that showed me the lack of sensitivity and intelligence that people who report on stories had, Charlton.
Yeah.
To say that the story was 180 degrees opposite from what Colin Kaepernick stated.
Yeah.
He verbalized, Charlton, what this was about. He never said military, it was against the military, never said it against the flag. He said it was against oppression and, mistreatment of minorities in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He wanted people to have equal rights. And so because they couldn't put a different spin on it, because he was basically saying the same thing that the late Dr. Martin Luther King said, and, we saw the extent that America went after him with.
Yeah.
And so all they could say, well, we didn't want to start this civil rights movement all over again, so let's just say he's against the military and the flag.
And it's nothing further from the truth. Yeah.
And so that same person who sits out there who drinks a 6-pack a day before breakfast,
yeah.
would believe that.
Yeah.
When he woke up, I believe that boy, that's what he's doing. He's against the military.
Yeah.
He against the people that's protecting us. Not that person ever went to the military. Charlton, the thing that appalls me the most is that we have all these people out here saying that this stance was against the military and the flag. How many of those people have been in the military? Yes, we have a lot of people that is in the military that may have said that.
Yes.
But I guarantee you, Charlton, 90% of the people, 85 to 90% of the people who made the statement that this stance by the black players in the NFL was against the military and the flag,
yes,
never served in any military service, Charlton.
Never served in it. And when you also think about the unemployment rate or the employment rate in the United States of America, when we say jobs are at an all-time high for a lot of people, remember, private prisons, they get backed by banks. And I'll just bring it up one more time. You can Google it, too. So don't just trust what I say. Google it. I'm talking 2018. Wells Fargo Bank. You ever hear of them? Do they own the signing rights to any stadium in America? Have you ever heard of Bank of America? They fund stadiums and sports teams, too. J.P. Morgan Chase. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of them. A bank called BNP Paribas. They also fund sports teams. SunTrust Bank and U.S. Bancorp. These major banks are predominantly the ones that fund private prisons who massively incarcerate black men. So when you see black men taking a knee, they know this too. I just want mainstream to know it. And if you're okay with that, then just say, hey, well, I don't care about mass incarceration. I just want to see you play ball. But when you're not playing ball, those same banks fund those prisons that are prosecuting black people, black and brown people. You can Google it. So that's why I appreciate our conscious mainstream that are passing laws like H.R. 4261. That's not about whether you're Democrat or Republican. That's just to say when you stand in front of the court system, you got to know that African-American men, the same ones you say don't take a knee, they're 7 out of 10 times more likely to be falsely accused of a crime. Google that. So if you're intelligent, there's no way you can be anti these athletes who are saying NFL. Will you please stand with us to make these changes? So that's why I want to appreciate Bobby Scott, a Democrat from Virginia. And for people who say that sports and politics don't mix, he knows what he's doing. He knows the profile of people who are racially profiled. They look just like the guys that are playing in the NFL and the NBA. And that's why, as a mainstream guy, I'm very proud of him. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, you couldn't be more profound in that. In that, you know, we always talk about a social conscience in America, whether it's in athletics, whether it's in politics, whether it's just in mainstream life.
Yeah.
And because these players possess so much power and vision, because they're visualized by millions of Americans daily, not even when they're not even at work, Charlton.
No.
Americans look at them. They recognize them. They look to see what they're doing. So many kids in America base their days on what their athlete did the day before.
That's right.
Or that week.
Yeah.
They follow them, you know, not only just the shoes, the jerseys, the hairstyles, everything they emulate about these athletes. And so when you get mainstream society sitting there saying, these athletes are too influenceable on our young Caucasian youth.
Yeah.
So if they get them to follow what they're saying, it's just like with Martin Luther King. He wasn't so dangerous until he got poor white people to realize that they weren't any better off than black people.
Yeah.
And he unified that core. When he did that, he lost his life, Charlton.
Yep.
And because they said, if he was only targeting the blacks, we can deal with that. But now he has whites recognizing that don't have, that they're no better off.
Yeah.
And so when we look at how politics and news outlets have gone after the minority athlete, Charlton,
yep,
for this stance, you know, and when you go to a sporting event, whether it's you, your neighbor, or the guy down the street, or the guy across town, or the ladies that left the Tupperware party,
yeah,
they don't go to see who's singing the national anthem, Charlton.
No, they don't.
And I'll use this line that the great Larry Bird said one night at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
When he got his second foul early in the first quarter.
Yes.
And he turned to the ref. He said, you think they came here to see you call flipping fouls on these 4 points?
And I'm sure he said
Larry
flipping.
finished that game with 30-plus points and only 2 fouls.
Yeah.
Now, you tell me what fan has ever gone to the stadium for the national anthem to be the highlight of the game, Charles?
Yeah. And so
they don't. And I don't care about the greatest ones that have ever been saying. We all think about the one that Whitney Houston did during the Gulf War, the Tampa Stadium, Charlton, with the Giants and the Bills in the Super Bowl when Scott Norwood went wide right.
Yep.
And that song was played forever.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, Charlton, what is memorable? The wide right is more memorable in the sports than what Whitney Houston's national anthem was.
Yeah.
They still play that on sports outlets, Charlton.
Yep.
2 decades later, it is still played.
Yeah.
Every now and then you'll get that national anthem, but Scott Norwood is etched in history.
Sure is.
With that, Charlton. In sports history. No one was hurt by the national anthem in any kind of way. More people were hurt by the missed field goal, Charlton.
Yeah, they sure were, Big C. So, and it all goes into, we have a great opportunity right now. There's this convergence. I was just talking about being in San Francisco under the Golden Gate Bridge, and most people have either seen it or they've been there. There's a convergence of the waters from the San Francisco Bay and the Pacific Ocean. And where they converge, there's a little bit of turbulence under there. You can feel it. The bridge is designed to vibrate when you walk across it. You don't notice it until you're standing still. It was designed in 1935 or completed in 1935. But there's something about what's happening now with sports and religion and politics. No one who's ever been accused of a crime knows that it's the right thing. It's the wrong thing. But if no one calls attention to it, people assume that you're guilty. Why? Because no one stood up for you. So I want to stand up for the athletes that say we're not taking an offense to the national anthem. We just want to call attention to this information that can keep everybody safe. And I think by being conscious of it, we can do that. And that's why I'm so proud of athletes, because they've taken on their criticism for doing it. Big C, I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. They're also nationally endorsed by the NCAA. So with all the great things we talked about, taking knees and Gronkowski taking on sharks. I guess he hasn't seen the movie Jaws. There's also one called Megalodon that I'm afraid to get into the water because when I see sharks, I think about getting out. You good old boys think about jumping in, getting dinner. So you guys are a little bit different breed of cat. But around the world of sports, I want to get your thoughts because it's still happening. We talked a little bit about Carmelo Anthony yesterday. Does he see that he should be maybe the reason he's not retired yet is because he doesn't believe he should? But at some point in time, should he buy into the fact that he should be coming off the bench? I mean, it hasn't hurt Iguodala coming off the bench for the Golden State Warriors. Or is he still going to say it's either me playing first or team or no team? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, for many athletes, that ego is a tough thing to suppress. When you think about the top 4 players taken in that draft, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and Carmelo Anthony, in that same draft, only one of those players is still excelling, Charlton. That's LeBron James.
Yeah.
He is a different breed of cat. For some reason, he has a genetic makeup that is unparalleled in the world of sports. And so his game has not suffered like other players have. Father Time's going to catch up with all athletes.
Yep.
I mean, every now and then, even when I go outside,
it catches
I'll
you
crack
too.
it on peek to see if he's still hanging around.
Yeah.
He's a sneaky dude. He has creeped up on so many guys. But the thing is with athletes, being a competitor.
Yes.
It's how do you tell a competitor that they're not a competitor anymore, Chuck?
Yeah.
And so many players are forced into retirement. And nowadays, players stay around chasing a ring. It's not always about money, even though they make exorbitant amounts.
Oh, yeah.
They're chasing rings. I mean, you ask any Hall of Fame athlete, Charlton, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, what's the one thing that they regret about their career? Is that they did not get a ring, the ones that don't have one. Charlton, I can be around other players that don't have a ring, and if I have mine on and other guys in the group have one on,
yeah,
that's the only thing that matters. Man, let me see your ring. Let me see your ring.
Yep.
They may have made more money than you.
Yeah.
But it's like, let me see your ring. Let me put it on.
Yeah.
The feel of having a championship ring on your finger, Charlton, and you know, everybody looks at it and see it. When I was flying through the other day,
yes, and
I just happened to have one on, and I'm holding the rail inside the monorail to hold on. They tell you always hold on to something.
Yeah.
And this lady is there, and she's trying to read my ring. She's looking, and, and I'm acting like I'm not looking at her. She was a diminutive woman. She was probably about 5'1" or so.
Yeah.
But she was a nice lady, and she was just, as the thing was bobbing back and forth, I said, let me just hold it out there for us. I said, here, hold it. And she was like, yep. Oh, she's like, wow.
Yeah.
You must be very proud of that. I said, I am.
Yep.
And I said, it's one of those fortunate things that I was able to achieve in life. But, so many players, I mean, when we look at the great athletes of all time,
yes,
and so many of them do not have that championship ring, Charlton, that's the one thing that will haunt them forever, and especially when we go out and play golf.
Yeah.
And when we start talking about rings and the guy that don't have one, if you ever want to get called words that you can't say on the air,
exactly.
Try that sometime.
Like Larry Bird said to the official, I understand, Big Z. That's all. I thought she was looking at that drippy, greasy bag of chicken you were trying to get onto the plane. But that's part of what the chances you take when you walk around with a good smelling food and a fistful of diamonds, Big Z, all across the sports universe. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we'll touch on some of it. But I do want to just say on a personal note, and I want to get your thoughts. Greg Papa, he's the guy who's called Oakland Raider football for probably the last 10-plus years. He's done some work over in the Bay Area, calling baseball and basketball, college and football. I remember being a spotter for Greg Papa. Back in '96, he was doing a game down at Stanford University. I think they were playing either San Jose State or Arizona State. And he's been replaced as a Raider play-by-play guy by the great Brent Musburger. Now, I wonder why Brent Musburger, who's considerably older, wants to take on the role of just calling for one team when his knowledge is universal. It would be like Big C Sports just focusing on one market. And I wonder why Brent Musburger wants to go from a global scale as being one of the best broadcasters in the universe to just broadcast football for the Oakland Raiders. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, one of those things, we were just talking about it, Father Time.
Yeah.
He sneaks up even on broadcasting.
Don't say that, Big Z.
Brent Musburger has had some tough times over the past couple of years with some things that he has said. He was demoted from being the number one guy on the mothership.
Yeah.
Because of some comments he made against A.J. McCarron's girlfriend.
Yeah.
During the game.
Yeah.
And so, I think about the late, great Chris Jackson.
Yeah, he was the best.
Keith Jackson.
Keith Jackson, yeah.
And he said 2 years before he retired that it was time for him to go because he knew that his skills had diminished.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be in the booth making mistakes, and he was recognizing some of the mistakes that he made. I think loyalists, when they're listening to somebody, they overlook those things at times.
Yeah.
And I look at Musburger trying to stay on top of college football every week. That's a tough game, Charlton, to stay on top of. You got new names every week, young players every year. But to go to a professional organization, this allows him to stay in one place, Charlton, and other than just the road games that they have, but to concentrate mainly on one roster and study the second one.
Yes.
He doesn't have to have two different rosters every week. Okay? He has the Raiders roster and the opposing roster. The thing about the NFL is that it doesn't change much. It's pretty much a stagnant league when it comes to certain things.
Yep.
And even in a broadcast office.
Yeah.
It's simplified. When you have to learn how to describe all the nuances of a college game, Charlton, as you get older, you're going to miss a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a lot faster game than the NFL. So this is a move with Musburger. The Raiders are looking twofold. Is that you're going to have a new team in a new city, and you're going to have a new broadcast crew.
Yes.
And maybe Papa didn't want to come along, but I don't know how it will enhance the Raiders broadcast in any kind of way from what Papa had done.
No, I think Greg Papa's like the best. Okay, everybody has their choice, but if you've ever heard the late Bill King call a Raider broadcast game, I thought he was untouchable. I still remember as a little boy listening to the Raiders play when they had John Matuzak and they had Kenny the Snake Stabler and Cliff Branch and all them good old boys that played back in the great Raider football teams, and John Madden on the sideline when they beat the Vikings down in the Super Bowl. And I heard him talking about an earthquake that John Madden, stop jumping, John, you're going to cause an earthquake in the Rose Bowl. That is hard to bypass. He also called, the late Bill King called for the Oakland A's. And I believe he even did some Golden State Warriors broadcasts. So not only
that trifecta that Charlton in the Coliseum, you think about how powerful he was. He did all three Bay Area sports teams, Charlton, Oakland sports teams, at the same time.
Yeah.
And you think about the overlapping of those seasons. Well, when you had football, basketball, and baseball overlapping.
Yeah.
He had to be able to have the mindset to transcend from one sport to the other, Charlton.
Yeah.
And make you feel that was the only sport that he was doing.
Yeah.
That's how spectacular he was.
No, amazing. So you're right. Sometimes, Father Time catches up on everybody. I was like, why am I taking these ibuprofen? And people say they aren't good for you, but I know I feel better when I don't feel what's hurting so much. That makes me sense. Something's hurting, but if you just put enough dirt and some duct tape on it where you don't feel the pain anymore, at least I can get through that pain. So
you can also put enough clear stuff in a glass, just not water, and feel the same way.
Yeah, that's a good point, Big Z. But sometimes you want to do that only when you're home so you don't end up like the guy down to the Arizona Cardinals. I understand what you're saying. But also I want to just touch on a few more things in the sports universe. I think Brent Venable, defensive coordinator, University of Clemson, his contract's $11.6 million if approved. Now, why? I mean, everybody's making a lot of money. You talked about just yesterday, I believe, Magic Johnson, when he signed that 25-year deal for $1 million a year with the LA Lakers. And now you have guys saying they won't play for less than $30 million in 1 year, Big C. That's just incredible. And so college, maybe I didn't read all the way the story. Are they paying the athletes too, or just the coaches, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you get all the talk shows talking on the tube saying, well, it's a slippery slope.
It is slippery. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you slip on some of the stuff that the coaches are spewing out, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you think about what allows an assistant coach, a defensive coordinator, to get a contract for $11.6 million, Charlton, which is the highest in any public institution in America.
Yeah.
That's what Brent Venable is about to receive over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
$11.6 million. And so when they say, how do you figure out how to pay athletes? How the hell do you figure out how to pay coaches? That's what's dumbfounding to me. Like I said, I'm never going to be a very intelligent man. But if you can figure out how do you calculate that you pay a defensive coordinator $11.6 million.
Wow.
So, you know that Dabu Sweeney, the head coach, is making at least $7 million
a year.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay? And the rest of the coaching staff is not riding around in a Volkswagen Jetta.
No.
Okay? Let's be realistic about that.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
And so when you say that you cannot pay athletes, Chelsea, at some point, it's got to get like the national news.
Yeah.
You got to start calling somebody a lie.
Yeah.
Okay? Instead of saying, well,
it's complicated.
Untruthful.
Yeah.
No, he's telling a damn lie.
Yeah.
You can pay these athletes, Charlton, because you got to look at it from this perspective. These are state universities, okay?
Yeah.
So where does state university money come from? The government.
Yep.
The taxpayers. They're paying these people. These people become the highest paid state employees. When you look at SEC coaches, Charlton,
yeah,
in every state that they're in, They all are the highest paid state employees in the state. They make more than the governors, the senators, any politician, any law enforcement person in the state, Charlton.
Wow.
That's not under the table.
That
okay?
I didn't know what under the table meant until I played some cards with some good old boys down south. They were passing all kind of stuff under the table. But yeah, that's so true. We can find a way to pay everybody but the black guys. I mean, everybody but the athletes. But you know, that's just part of why we got to talk about it all the time, because we want to bring change to it. And I'm for everybody making the money. I wish I could have a $400 million contract. I'm still flummoxed over how Mike Trout is not highly touted like your good old boy from the Washington Nationals, Big C. I think when you think about batting .214 for Harper and Trout's hit the home run in his ballpark when they had a major league pitcher pitching to him, I'm just going to advocate for Trout because he's in one of the largest markets in the country, but he's not making the kind of money he should, Big C. I want to go into this contract talk, and I think your friend Andrew Luck from Stanford University, now with the Indianapolis Colts, they brought in Andrew Luck to let Peyton Manning know what you just said about Greg Papa and what you said about Brent Musburger. Sometimes that father time catches up. Even though Peyton went on and won a Super Bowl in all places in San Francisco, where Andrew Luck was from. Talk about irony there. But now he's saying that he can throw, that his shoulder has no limitations. He's just going to have to get his time in, and he'll be there in training camp. Big C, you know what it's like when athletes go through surgery. They got to take some time off. What are we expecting from Andrew Luck? Have we seen the best of Andrew Luck, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've seen it. I think his best years may be behind him. You know, even though his career has been short. A shoulder injury, Charlton, is nothing easy to come back from. I recall at one point I tore my rotator cuff. I'm a lineman.
But you did yours on purpose to impress some people, Big C. He did it today.
But it altered, Charlton, everything that I did.
Yeah.
It altered the angle that I bench pressed, the way that I lifted weights, Charlton, even the way that I tried to maneuver an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
It altered that, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so when you think about what an NFL quarterback relies on, putting the ball in the air 40 to 45 times a game, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not only that, he's going to be hit by some 280, 300-pound defensive linemen and driven into the turf on that shoulder, Charlton.
Artificial turf, yeah.
What will the structural situation of that shoulder be? How will it stand up? We understand throwing a 13-ounce football, you know, it can get heavy at times.
Yeah.
But when you got a 300-pound lineman leaning on you, matter of fact, a couple of them leaning on you at the same time, Charlton, that's where the problem is going to occur. You also, the biggest problem with Andrew Luck coming back to the Colts is that they really haven't upgraded their offensive line that much, Charlton.
Because he took all the money.
They drafted a couple of rookies.
Yep.
But over the past couple of years, it's been one of the most poorest offensive lines in the NFL. I know a lot of people talk about the New York Giants and that Eli Manning wasn't getting any protection. No, Eli can't run. I mean, I might be able to run as fast as Eli.
Yep.
But you know, you look at Luck, and he was touted as one of the greatest athletes playing that position in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he could not avoid the rush of the massive defensive linemen in the NFL. So I worry about the reports. You know, you want to get your investment back out on the field. You're paying this guy $144 million. And
yep.
You just don't want to keep writing him a check and him not at least trying.
Yeah.
But, you know, we saw with his predecessor, Peyton Manning, you know, it took Peyton a long time to come back from a neck injury. But the last time I checked, the neck wasn't part of the throwing apparatus.
Yep, that's I checked.
So, you know, so when you think about the bad luck the quarterback
no pun intended
playing for the Colts, Charlton.
Yeah.
They haven't had a lustrous history once they've gotten injured.
Yeah. Do you think hindsight's always 20/20? Did they get rid of Peyton Manning too soon? I know they want. It's like Harper with the Washington Nationals. There's someone. Maybe Boris has a lot of connections in the media that other agents don't have, so they don't believe what they see. When a guy can't even bat 220 and they're saying he's worth $400 million. Do you think Andrew Luck makes the Colts think that maybe, just maybe, they got rid of Peyton Manning too long now or too soon? I know he's retired. I know he's not coming out of football. But there's something that happens when you take a lot of money and put it into a quarterback who doesn't play, At the same time, you don't put that money into an offensive line. No matter who's playing quarterback for them, he's going to go through some pains. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they could have learned from the Green Bay Packers. If you recall when Green Bay drafted Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He sat behind Brett Favre for 3 years, Charlton.
Yeah. 3
solid seasons that he just sit there and held a clipboard.
Yep.
But look at what he learned. Look at the knowledge that he obtained. And that organization didn't go down in any kind of way with Favre playing quarterback, Charlton.
No.
That could have been the same scenario and should have been the same scenario in Indianapolis. Is that they could have brought Luck in because he wouldn't have suffered the injury that he suffered.
Yeah.
If he had been sitting behind Peyton Manning and letting Peyton Manning take those hits.
Yeah.
And allow him to learn. The knowledge that Peyton Manning possessed, Charlton, you know, that's the same thing that Aaron Rodgers got from Brett Favre. He didn't have to play. He just watched. He just paid attention to everything that he was doing. He had the greatest teacher that he could have.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't remember that Steve Young did the same thing in San Francisco behind Joe Montana.
Yep.
He sat behind Joe for 3 years and paid attention to what was going on, listening in the meeting rooms, recognizing what Joe was recognizing.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened with both of those quarterbacks, Charlton, how they went on to become Super Bowl winners in a short time after letting go of the number one guy.
Yep.
There's so much of a push now, Charlton, to put in the young quarterback when you draft them. They have to be game ready. They have to play. You can't sit them down for a year and let them hold a clipboard. You want to throw them out there in the fire. And when they get hurt mentally as well as physically, Charlton, where's your investment at that point?
Wow, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady came off the bench when he started for the New England Patriots. He wasn't the starter that season. And so you just have to be ready when they call your number, you got to be ready. I hope that Andrew Luck has success. But I think, like what you just mentioned, I've never had that type of injury, but you have. And for someone to tell you that you're healthy, you should go out there. I even in another sport heard Charles Barkley say he wished he would not have listened to the team doctor and would have listened to his own doctor when they were saying you're ready to play. I think maybe Kawhi Leonard had some of that same ribbing when they were telling him that he needs to toughen up down in San Antonio, and now he's taking his talents up to Toronto, Canada. I hope that Luck's not coming back too soon because their life is more important. He got the money anyway. He doesn't need it. And when you look about coming back too soon, we come to the NBA. DeMarcus Cousins, some talk about him. He doesn't care what the critics think about him going to Golden State. Also, he has to be healthy. He still thinks that he's going to recover. Now, a lot of it, you got to have the mentality, and I hope that he does recover. It's just going to mean more championships for Golden State, even if he's not there, but it doesn't hurt. But is he and Andrew Luck, would you relate their same experiences as similar, where they both they injured a major part of their body that's going to cost them in performance? Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm going to take Cousins here and compare him to another former NBA great, Arvydas Sabonis.
Yeah.
Since we've been talking about Russia a lot lately.
Yep.
So, the big Russian center that used to play for the Portland Trailblazers. Prior to his Achilles injury, Charlton, they said he could have been the best center in basketball. They rivaled him in peril to Kareem at the time.
Really?
That's how dominant a player that Arvydas Sabonis was, you know, when he was playing European basketball and when he, you know, his first couple of years with the Portland Trailblazers. But he tore his Achilles. Now, he was a much larger man than Cousins.
Yeah.
You think about it. Here's Cousins, 6'11", 270 pounds. Arvydas Sabonis was 7'2", 300.
Wow.
But he was a dominant player, Charlton, and he was like Cousins. Many people don't remember that. He had a great outside shot. He could knock it down from three.
Yeah.
He slowed down a bit, Charlton, from the Achilles. But he was still a very much of an offensive and a defensive presence in the NBA during that run when the Lakers were dominating with Showtime in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So Cousins can recover. The greatest thing that Cousins has going for him, Charlton, is that there's no rush timetable on him.
No, not at all.
He's not brought in to be the guy. That's the difference with Andrew Luck. He's being brought in to be the guy in Indianapolis. He's the savior.
Yeah.
He's what the team has been waiting on for 2 years. You know, people talk about that with Kawhi Leonard. So what if he sits out for 2 years? Well, Andrew Luck has been out for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, it shows that great athletes can recover and come back and perform. But the pressure is on Luck, Charlton, because he doesn't have the time, like Cousins does, to sit back half the season and watch.
when we look
he has to come out and lead his team. He has to be the bell cow for the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, let me ask you, as we go across the country, you look at the Boston Celtics, you look at Gordon Hayward. We know he had that horrific injury. They were playing that game, and it was just, some people thought our season's over. Gordon Hayward got hurt. Well, the Celtics went to the Eastern Conference Championship game anyway, and the only one that beat them was the best basketball player in the universe, in LeBron James. But is Gordon, he has some issues to overcome too. Will he be the same Gordon that he was that made Boston trade for him? We know that they have a dominant team. They're a young team. Do they even really need him, or should he consider being in the role player that DeMarcus Cousins is? Just be there if they need you, but why inject him in the lineup and change the lineup that got you to the Eastern Conference Finals? Big C, your thoughts?
It's based on facial appearance, Charlton.
Yeah.
They need that organic look in Boston, Charlton, and that's the reason why they brought Hayward in and gave him that huge contract.
Yeah. Is
that he fit into that populace there, Charlton, socially.
Yeah.
Hayward can come in. He doesn't have to score 30 points a game. If he's at 20, 21 points a game, Charlton, that's perfect for what Boston does. It's such a balanced offense. But what they did with Boston last year, and you're always going to see change in lineups, is that they had an opportunity for younger players to develop more rapidly than what they would not have done, Charlton, if Hayward had been healthy, if Irving had been healthy all year.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest plus for Boston. But it sets Boston up, Charlton, for after the season starts, when you get to that midpoint trade deadline that we saw Cleveland make a huge move at, at that point in the season last year.
Yeah.
What if Boston is in that position where they can go get a key component that may push them over the top, that gets them back to the NBA Finals? Don't think that they won't do it, Charlton, because they have assets. They get to that point late in the year, you don't know who Danny Ainge may pull the trigger on, bringing him into Boston and shipping someone out.
Yeah, he's been known to make a lot of the right choices. So no matter what happens, there's always players that will come out after an injury. Some players, they come back too soon. Some don't come back at all. We hope that all these great athletes will not face long-term injury because maybe they are trying to come back too soon. They have the contracts, the guaranteed contracts for the most part. If you're going to take the time to get healthy, you don't want to mess it up coming back too soon, especially if you're not there. I do want to switch the thoughts to some of your good old friends. As you like to fly on airplanes a lot, Big C, and I know they might have, it's funny, when anyone gets on a plane now, if you find any greasy seats, just the way you do when your neighbors leave or you have company come over for dinner, and they might bring their kids, and their kids got their hand on everything. All you got to do is find the greasy spots. I hope they got the grease cleaned up on those airline seats that you were dripping that chicken, Big C, and that you're not leaving a spot for the airlines to have to clean up. But I want to go into the world of golf. Golf it's a great game. It's good to see Tiger Woods making the cut. We look at the British Open over in Scotland, historic championship course. Tiger's tied for 29th. Kisner's in the league at -6. Zach Johnson also -6. Some other notables: Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler, and then Jason Day. They're all over there having a good time, Big C. But have you caught that thing where you just got to watch it this weekend the way you would not miss opening season kickoff for Alabama football? I know that. You're not going to miss NFL kickoff. But is this British Open something that's going to keep you glued to your TV over the weekend, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if Tiger and Phil are in the hunt at the end of Saturday, yes, it will. That is the reason why they will still have an audience on the weekend, because Tiger and Phil made the cut.
Yeah.
Those are the competitors that people want to see, Charlton. It's like we can always keep going back to Father Time. He's chasing Phil and Tiger down.
Yeah.
Is what he's doing.
Yeah.
But as a fan, a true fan of the game, it's hard to let our heroes go.
Yeah. The
people that have made us fall in love with a particular sport, that's a relationship that we have in life. And everyone knows how their relationships are. They don't want to let them go.
Yep.
And when these relationships that you have with Tiger and Phil always made you feel good on the weekend. Just like the OGs had the song, Living for the Weekend.
Yeah.
And so you were living for Tiger and Phil.
Yeah.
You could not wait until the tournament that they were in, Charlton. And we all still have that hope that this one of these weekends is going to kick in for Tiger or Phil or the both of them. So wouldn't it be great to see Tiger and Phil in the top 3 on Sunday?
Oh, my goodness.
As the day started in a tournament, Charlton?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the ratings that the golf channels would have, Charlton, whether it's NBC or CBS, covering that tournament? If you went into round 4 of a golf tournament and Tiger and Phil were in the top 3 in the hunt for that championship, Charlton, that would take everybody back, Charlton, 15 years in the golf world, and the youthfulness of all of us would be rejuvenated.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Roy shoots a 69 again. He stays in the hunt for the Open. But you think about the one bat swing that gave Tiger Phil new hope. And Kisner, when he was at the 18th hole on Friday, I mean, think about what you just said. I think sometimes these younger players, they know in the back of their mind that track and field effect when you're racing against Usain Bolt. He may not have started out in first, but by the time you cross that 50-meter mark, you can feel Usain Bolt just breathing down the back of your neck, kind of like those wild hogs feel when you guys are chasing them down south. They know they're either about to get to be dinner or they're going to get to be a rug, but they're not getting away. So, like the catfish not getting away. Do people still, you talk about Father Time, is Father Time making the younger players no longer afraid of guys like Tiger and Phil? I think it still has an effect on them, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, they're still in awe being around these guys. Is that they're playing their best games when these guys are out there. You know, it's just like when you look at the Golden State Warriors a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Is that was your NBA title run when you played them during the regular season. If you could beat them during the regular season when they set the record with the 73 victories, Charlton, that was your championship run. That's how a lot of teams address that, is that we can beat the best team in basketball. This is our finals.
Yeah.
And so you even see that in college athletics, Charlton, when you look at college football, when you see someone knock off a power team, Charlton, a top 10 team. That makes their season.
Yeah.
And generally, the following week, Charlton, they will lose because they have such a letdown emotionally.
Yep.
They're still riding on that high of beating that top-ranked team.
Yeah.
So we saw that last year with Syracuse and Clemson, when Clemson upset Syracuse. The next week, Syracuse loses to a lesser opponent.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you knock off Clemson, number one team in the country, and you go out there and lose to a team that's not even ranked by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's
so
part.
This is what we see all the time in sports.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I love the fact that Tiger Woods still shows that he has it at the Open. And it's almost like that relationship. You don't know if she's leaving you or if she's staying. But you always want to know why you keep buying new bags. Like, what are all these bags for? At the same time, it's great when Tiger can have that Tiger effect. I think when you can take it all across the world and people still look at you as the number one golf personality in the universe, they don't really need to see you win. They just want to see you there. Just like some of our great athletes, I hope that luck can come back and have success with Indianapolis. He's never going to match what Peyton Manning gave him because it seems every year they were chasing the AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl when they had Peyton Manning. Can luck match that? Probably not. If Gordon Hayward comes back, he's not going to make the Celtics better. Just like Boogie Cousins is not going to make Golden State better. He'll make them good, but they can win without him. Golf needs Tiger and it needs Phil, just like the Cleveland Cavaliers need LeBron James. He's not there now. So this moment that we have, this one shining moment to see these guys again for this weekend, I hope that they play well. Big C, if they don't play well, then we still have next week and then next month. So that's a great thing about golf. I want to close out on one more thing. I'm just proud of the NFL and taking the stance to say, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes, as you always say, pump your brakes. Maybe they need to relook at this. Maybe join the side of people who are on your side, like that black athletes. They're not SOBs. They're not protesting military. They're just asking for people to pay attention to the criminal justice system. And because we have some great congressmen out there, they're changing it. So the next time you want to protest something, realize that McDonald's and Wendy's, their meat is prepared in private prisons. Google that. The next time you want the Whopper, the Big Mac, have it your way. A lot of private companies are using the prison inmates to make food that we eat. And I know people don't want to look at that. They want to make it about the military. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, they do so much as far as the productivity in every state. Well, when you think about yourself driving down the freeway, the thing that's in front of you every day is a license plate that was made in an incarceration institution, Charlton. That's where they're made at. And we see the street signs, Charlton, they're on the side of the roads, the highway signs. They're made in prisons, Charlton. Those are the private companies that produce those. So when they say that these people have not been rehabilitated and they're not productive, Charlton, they're productive every day. They do more productivity than the average American, Charlton, the ones that are incarcerated and working. So when you talk about being a productive member of society, Charlton, they are. And so this is what the stance that the players are taking. If they can be that productive incarcerated, why not give them that equal chance on the outside? Because they've shown that they've been rehabilitated. And some of these sentences, Charlton, that these people have received are exorbitant. And they were just giving away, they were giving away time like Marshawn Lynch used to give away Skittles in Seattle. Okay? They were just throwing them out there. And so this is what they really need to take a look at. Is that what the players are bringing to the forefront. But like I said, it's like with the late Dr. Martin Luther King. As long as he was saying that we needed equal rights for just black people, then people were saying, well, he's just a rebel riser. Then all of a sudden he told poor white people, you're in the same position we're in, and they recognized that. They mocked him at first until he said, look in the mirror and see if you're any better off than me. And then all of a sudden he became a threat to America. That's what the NFL players have become, Charlton, a threat to America. Because they're saying that we have enough social and economic power to bring attention to a cause. Just like the late Dr. Martin Luther King. We're bringing attention to a cause that's unjust in America.
That's true.
And those of you that are comfortable don't want to hear that. You say, well, I'm not affected by that. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Because you are the oppressor. And you have to think about, if someone were oppressing you, how would you feel, Charles?
They say, hey, it's not the right time to talk about it, but it's always the right time to talk about it. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, tonight is the start of the second half of the Major League Baseball season, Charlton. It's been 4 days since the game has been played during the All-Star break, but everybody, Charlton, is back in the diamond tonight. You got the East race still going on with Boston and the Yankees. The Dodgers are hoping to get strong with Machado. I don't think he'll play tonight, but he'll be out there soon. In the lineup, the Washington Nationals are trying to see if they can, get hot with your buddy Bryce Harper. They can get him hitting over 214. They're on the mound tonight. But, it's a big thing having baseball back, Charlton. And the next big thing in baseball, Charlton, will be the trade deadline. Who will be getting strong, for the playoffs, Charlton? As we saw with the Houston Astros last year when they made the trade for Verlander. It almost guaranteed them a World Series that they went out and won.
That's telling it like it is, Big C. You're telling it like it is. And when you want to hear it told like it is, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, we always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.